Good evening and welcome to Woodstock City Council. It is Thursday, October the 5th, 2017. And tonight we have a few items on the agenda. Any disclosure of conflict of interest? Seeing none. Disclosure of new business, matters arising from the minutes, and the minutes of our last regular meeting on September 21st. Councillor Accioni.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Shapton, that the minutes of the regular meeting of Woodstock City Council held on September 21st, 2017 be adopted.
Thank you. Any errors or omissions? Seeing none, you've heard the motion. All those in favor? Carries. Unanimous. And our next item on the agenda is the Engineering Department for tender award on Norwich flood remediation. Councillor Tate.
Move that Woodstock City Council award the tender for the construction of Norwich flooding area remediation measures to Yukon Construction Limited in the amount of $778,473.27, inclusive of HST, and further that City Council authorizes the additional funds of $100,000 necessary for the project to be funded from the reserve for capital projects.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Accioni. Discussion? Seeing none, you've heard the motion. All those in favor? Carries. Unanimous. And our next item is the school fees for use of city recreational assets. Councillor Shapton.
Thank you, Your Worship. Moved by myself that Woodstock City Council direct staff to open a dialogue with the Woodstock area school boards in order to lower barriers, both financial and structural, for the community and students.
Thank you. And seconded by Councillor Tate. Discussion? Councillor Petter.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if Mr. Connors would like to expand on this, specifically on how the city can possibly gain with the discussions with the school board on, and what we would like to use that they have as gyms and whatever.
Your Worship, through to the councillor's question. What we would be looking to do is to open up the school gyms in the evening for city and community use. Right now they are available, but a lot of community groups struggle to get into the gyms just because of the way it's currently scheduled. It's not scheduled that's very conducive for community groups to advertise and stay in those gym times for a long period of time.
Councillor Petter.
Through the mayor to Mr. Connors again, is there any case where the city pays the school board to use any of their facilities?
Your Worship, through to the councillor's question, we do sometimes use school facilities, the city, for camps, especially for rain or for holding camps. Now, we didn't last year because we used the community complex, but we have done so in the past.
Councillor Tate.
I just want to make a comment through the chair from the last meeting, because there was a little bit of misinformation that was represented by the presenter. So I did contact one of our board members from the school board, Bill McKinnon, and he was more than helpful and very appreciative of any dialogue between us and the school board, and also from Upper Thames, from the supervisors there too. They were very open to dialogue. So thank you.
Thank you. Further discussion? You've heard the motion. All those in favor? Carries. Unanimous. And the next item on the agenda is City Council Remuneration Report. Councillor Talbot.
I'll move that Woodstock City Council receive the report regarding council remuneration as information.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Tate. Discussion? Councillor Talbot.
Through the mayor, I'm not too sure if our Director of Human Resources would like to make comment on the report.
Welcome.
Thank you, Your Worship. Other than what's in the report, really the only thing I might want to add and what's in here is, as you can see, there are a couple of municipalities that provide a benefit package to council. One thing that was made clear from a number of the municipalities is it's not the same package that's provided to the rest of staff. The only other thing I want to add is, I guess you might call it late breaking news. While I did indicate in here that none of the participating municipalities had come up with a plan for dealing with the elimination of the tax-free portion of the salary, just this week, a couple of days ago, the City of Kitchener did deal with this issue. What they did decide on is that effective 2019, that the tax-free portion would be eliminated, and that this is their term, not mine, that they would gross up the salary, so essentially council would be net out being equal. So there is one at least out there that I'm aware of that has dealt with that issue.
Questions of council? Thank you. You've heard the motion. All those in favor? Carries. Unanimous. And we have bylaw. So tonight, we will move along to our closing addresses, and we will start with Councillor Tate.
I just want to make a comment, just thinking of Councillor Lauder. She's probably our hardest working councillor. Not any disrespect to anybody, but she is. She's very hardworking, and I know it's very tough for her to miss meetings, and we are thinking of her.
Thank you. Councillor Accioni.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'd also like to wish Councillor Lauder, well wishes and everything with the whole family right now, and sorry she can't be here. Also want to, just some sad news, of course, with Firestone announcement being closed, is just thinking of all those families, and of course, everybody on the strike line at CAMI as well. I hope it is resolved quickly. Of course, we all want to keep jobs here, so continue to shop and play here in Oxford County in Woodstock. Best way to keep jobs. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Petter.
Echo the same thing the other councillor said about Councillor Lauder. I also want to congratulate her on her article in the What's on Woodstock. Excellent article that she wrote. And in that same edition of What's on Woodstock, the Woodstock Fire Department had an article in about fire prevention. Next week is Fire Prevention Week. We've talked about, I know I have, about smoke alarms and carbon monoxide detectors, but they come up with another item that everyone at home should look at. It's about having a plan to get out of your house in a fire, especially for children. Children are very good about being regimented as far as drills and that go at school. And if you sit down with them and let them know that if there was a fire and they're upstairs, there's always a door going into a room, but probably the only other access is a window. So you need to explain to them how in the world they were going to get out of the house if there is a fire. There are rope ladders that you can purchase. They're not expensive. And for a two-story house, you can actually have them by a window and open the window, down you go. So that's a good thing for all parents, and to sit down with their kids and make sure they understand what to do if there is a fire, where to meet, and what have you. The second one, Councillor Accioni brought up about Firestone, and I know the mayor worked there for 2 or 3 summers. I did as well, a couple of decades before the mayor did. I wouldn't be in this chair if it wasn't for Firestone. I came up to Canada when I was 12 years old because my father worked for Firestone in Hopewell, Virginia. And he was transferred up here, and that's how I got into this country. And outside of the month of February, I love this country to death. February, sick of winter by then, and I hate it. But besides that, that's how I got up here. So I have strong ties with Firestone. I don't think I've ever bought other than a Firestone and a Bridgestone tire. And I'll continue to. It's unfortunate that they couldn't find a way to keep this plant, but I mean, that's the economy today, and I hope they look after their employees like they say they're going to. And I know a lot of people that work at Firestone, and I hope everything works out for them. And I also know that there are jobs here in Woodstock. We have a lot of companies coming to town, and hopefully we can get all those employees placed. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Shapton.
Thank you, Your Worship. I would also like to echo my thoughts going out to Councillor Lauder at this time. I would just wanted to speak of a few things that myself and one that Councillor Accioni and I attended a few weeks ago while we weren't here at council, and thank Councillor Petter for doing such a great job of letting everyone know about my modeling career. But it was an incredible event, a sold-out event, and something that I'll never forget. It was so well run. The staff at WDDS should be commended heavily for running a fantastic event, and I know people that go truly enjoy it. It's a great event for ourselves, but specifically for the clients of WDDS. On the weekend, I was very fortunate to attend, and I spoke about it here a few times, the Arrest ALS for Geertz event, which I was a very proud participant and committee member, and we welcomed over 3,100 people through the gates on Saturday. It was absolutely incredible. It was probably one of the most moving things that I've ever been a part of, and something that truly allows me to realign what's really important in this life, because you just don't know. At 34 years old, Jason Geertz was diagnosed with ALS. He's got a young family, as do I, and I was able to directly correlate with that feeling. Couldn't imagine it being myself. A quick memory that I'll share from the night, and something that has been all over social media, was when him and his family went to the stage and danced to "Live Like You Were Dying." And it's something that hits you right in the heart and quickly puts you back to what's important. So for those that may think they have it pretty rough, we need to realize we're very fortunate in so many ways. So I'll leave it with that. We live in a great city. Despite our difficulties over the past week with the news of Firestone and that, I know it's something we'll get through. And thank you so much. We'll see you in a few weeks.
Thank you. Councillor Talbot.
Maybe I should have gone first. Just want to send out thoughts and prayers to Connie and her family during this difficult time. The world is a changing place, and lots of tragedies happening everywhere, not just in the well, all over the world, but there's been a lot in the news again lately. And when you look at our little corner, we have things going on, but Thanksgiving is this coming Monday, and for those that celebrate it, we have lots to be thankful for. So I hope that we remember the small things that make us grateful.
Thank you. And what I would say, I'll start with the, of course, Councillor Lauder, and it will mean a lot when she looks back to watch this meeting, and I know she will, to hear the kind words from all of her fellow councillors. So thank you all for giving her your thoughts and prayers, and the whole family. Regarding Firestone, there's been a lot of interesting walks down memory lane since the announcement, and one of the great things that I get to do as mayor of the city is have some of the conversations with the executives. I spoke with the Bridgestone executives shortly after most of the media had already talked to me. But one of the things that I know, it's very good reassurance from me, hearing of the corporate interest for our community, their long-standing tradition, and I've said this already and I'll say it again, they are going to leave this city better than when they found it, and individuals will have a lot of help along the way as the adjustments take place over the next year and a half. Now it is coming up to Thanksgiving weekend, and as Councillor Talbot mentioned, we have a lot to be thankful for here in our community, and quite often we can take some of the things for granted. And I know for me, one of the greatest parts of my role is when I'm able to go out to different community functions and represent the city. And so I'd highlight a few of the ones that have taken place since our last council meeting. I was able to be a part of the Beginnings Pregnancy Care Center's annual fundraising banquet, and they have been doing amazing work here in our community for young families and young ladies in crisis pregnancy situations for many years. They have a lot of dedicated volunteers and a very small staff, and it's just so nice to see how people come together there. Of course, we had the Woodstock Special Olympics award ceremony, and that was just great. The enthusiasm and seeing all of the coaches and the volunteers and the helpers and the sponsors that come out. So if you were out to the truck show at TA earlier this year, you helped support the Special Olympics and programs through WDDS. So the community, wow, we do amazing things. Now, Shauna Larson, we as a council have named our park on the north side of the community after her. And I was able to take a few moments last Friday to thank the team of volunteers that have been bringing awareness all across Canada for early detection for young women. So even in tragedy, that reminds us that we can come through on the other side more resilient and help others. Now, I was also able to participate at many school activities. At École Notre Dame, we celebrated the, of course, Francophone Day and raised the Francophone flag. And I was seeing a lot of green that day, and I was also wearing my green shirt and tie to be thankful for the special relationship we have here in our city, in our community, with the Francophone community. I was also able to attend St. Michael's Catholic Elementary School. They've been a long-standing member here in our community, and through generous support from various sponsors, they now have an outdoor classroom to teach about sustainability and give the young students another way of looking at some of the problems that you encounter in the classroom. So that was a wonderful time as well. We have had many things go on, such as a town hall meeting recently organized by Operation Sharing. And of course, some of the initiatives that have come out of our community, such as the Food for Friends program, where you're asked to give that quarter at the grocery store, amazing things. And I was out in Vancouver before, and someone came up on the street, and we ended up talking, and I said I was from Woodstock, Ontario, and they mentioned that they watched it on the news, and they were so happy to hear that someone had started a program like that. Now, as so many of these groups come together looking for our continued support, we're reminded that we need to work within the framework of all of our community partners, as well as the federal and provincial government. And at this point, when we all give our closing remarks, of course, these are our personal items that are near and dear to all of our hearts, but of course, not necessarily the official stance of the city. So what I would say when it comes to labor negotiations myself, today I see there's been more tweets on social media from members wanting my attendance at the picket line. And as myself, I will say that I hope for a very speedy, negotiated settlement for both parties. Of course, we have many different industry here in our city, many different representations, whether it's organized labor or unorganized labor. And our member of parliament actually spoke to it very well in a letter that it is not necessarily the role of government to get involved in those negotiations. So with all of that, I would say that the future has never been brighter for our city. There are changes that take place within industry, and there's a lot of information that can be spoken about at emotional times when news like this breaks that is not necessarily the right kind of information. So it's important for everyone to stay positive and think about Shanna Larson's legacy and how even in tragedy, great things can come about. So with that, I would ask for a motion to adjourn. Councillor Petter, seconded by Councillor Shapton. All those in favor? Carries. We are adjourned.